Was Donald Trump's presidency a boon or a bane for the United States? A question that sparks heated debate and passionate responses. This question has been on the minds of many, stirring a myriad of emotions across the political spectrum. Today we intend to explore this topic further, focusing specifically on the array of criticisms that have been directed towards Donald Trump during his time as president. We will touch on policy decisions, communication style, ethical concerns, and much more. So, without further ado, let's delve into the reasons why some people have criticized Donald Trump's presidency. Firstly, we look at Trump's policy decisions. During his presidency, Trump took several controversial stances that stirred up a lot of debate. His approach to immigration, for instance, was heavily criticized. The hardline stance, embodied by policies like the infamous zero-tolerance policy, led to widespread outcry. Then there's healthcare. The effort to dismantle the Affordable Care Act without a clear replacement was another point of contention. Environmental regulation saw significant rollbacks under Trump, causing concern among environmentalists and scientists alike. Trump's skepticism about climate change and decision to withdraw from the Paris Agreement were particularly contentious. In terms of international relations, critics argue that Trump's America First policy led to strained relationships with long-standing allies and a retreat from global leadership. Critics felt that his approach was often unpredictable and inconsistent, which they saw as detrimental to the United States' standing in the world. These policy decisions have been a significant point of contention during Trump's presidency. Next, we delve into Trump's communication style and ethical concerns. A distinguishing feature of Trump's presidency was his unorthodox use of Twitter. This platform became his direct line to the public, bypassing traditional media channels. However, his tweets often sparked controversy and were seen by some as divisive. Moving on to ethical concerns, Trump's business dealings, both before and during his presidency, raised eyebrows. Critics questioned the potential for conflicts of interest, especially given his reluctance to fully divest from his companies. Allegations of misconduct, both personal and professional, further fueled these concerns. Yet it's important to remember that these are criticisms, not indisputable facts. They reflect a viewpoint, not a universal truth. But, without a doubt, these factors, his communication style and the ethical concerns surrounding him, have led to a significant amount of criticism. The diversity of opinions is a testament to the complexity of politics and the individual perspectives that shape our understanding of it. Now we move towards Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and racial issues. The COVID-19 pandemic presented an unprecedented challenge for leaders worldwide. Critics argue that Trump's handling of the crisis was marked by an inconsistent messaging and a lack of coordinated federal strategy. They point out that instead of leading a unified response, the responsibility was often passed on to the states. This, they argue, resulted in a disjointed and ineffective response, exacerbating the impact of the pandemic. Turning to racial and social justice issues, critics say Trump's responses often fell short. His rhetoric, they argue, failed to address the systemic issues at the heart of protests against police brutality. His language was seen as divisive, potentially escalating tensions rather than fostering understanding and reconciliation. Critics felt that this lack of empathetic leadership was detrimental to the nation's progress on these critical issues. These issues have been some of the most contentious during Trump's presidency. Let's discuss Trump's approach to international relations and his impeachment proceedings. Trump's stance on international relations stirred controversy. His approach towards NATO, viewed by some as dismissive, raised eyebrows. His decision to withdraw from international agreements like the Paris Agreement on climate change was seen by critics as a retreat from global leadership. His relationships with foreign leaders, particularly those viewed as autocratic, also drew criticism. Turning to impeachment proceedings, Trump faced this constitutional trial twice during his presidency, a first in American history. The first impeachment centered around allegations of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, related to his interactions with Ukraine. The second impeachment was catalyzed by the events surrounding the Capitol riot. Critics argue these proceedings underscored serious concerns about his conduct in office. These issues have been a significant source of criticism. Next, we delve into concerns about democracy and Trump's personality. The 2020 presidential election was a significant flashpoint. Trump's refusal to concede and his persistent claims of widespread voter fraud sparked a wave of criticism. These actions were seen as a threat to the democratic process and the peaceful transition of power, cornerstones of American democracy. Now, let's turn to Trump's personality. His demeanor, rhetoric, and behavior have been subjects of debate. Critics argue that his conduct was often inconsistent with what is typically expected of a president. For instance, his impulsive tweeting, his tendency to make off-the-cuff remarks, and his combative style have been perceived by some as unbecoming of the highest office in the land. Trump's personality, coupled with his actions during the 2020 election, have raised questions about the implications for democracy and presidential conduct. These aspects have been contentious during and after Trump's presidency. Lastly, we discuss Trump's relationship with the media. A key point of contention during Trump's presidency was his interaction with the press. Critics argue that his labeling of certain news outlets as fake news and his general approach to the press undermined the role of a free and independent media. This contentious relationship, they claim, created a hostile environment that could be detrimental to the democratic process. Let's take a breather and summarize what we've discussed so far. We delved into various criticisms of Donald Trump, beginning with policy decisions, such as his stance on immigration, healthcare, and environmental regulations. We then moved on to his unique and often divisive communication style and ethical concerns related to his business dealings and allegations of misconduct. We explored criticisms surrounding his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and his response to racial and social justice issues. We touched on his approach to international relations, his impeachment proceedings, and the concerns raised about democracy following the 2020 presidential election. We also discussed the critiques about his demeanor, rhetoric, and behavior, arguing that it was inconsistent with the conduct expected of a president. While these criticisms exist, it's important to remember that opinions about political figures are diverse, and not everyone shares the same views or concerns. Public opinion is complex, shaped by a variety of factors including political beliefs, values, and personal experiences.